Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Sustain This with Vivobarefoot. This podcast is about cutting through all the bullshit and empowering people with courage and knowledge. And our goal is always to make these conversations as super authentic and as real as possible. Our guest today is actor and one of the stars of the show Sabrina on Netflix, Luke Cook. After recently deep diving into the world of foot fetishes, he dialed in from Australia to have a good laugh with us about where our obsession with feet lies between sensuality and disgust, amongst a few other things. Just a little disclaimer, there's a bit of toilet humor and adult themes on this episode, so be aware if you've got little ones nearby or you aren't keen to go in that direction. And remember, if you enjoy today's episode, please do give us a review on Apple Podcasts or on any of our social platforms you can find by searching at Vivobarefoot. All right, well, Luke, thanks for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you here on a completely opposite time zone.
Yes, well, I'm happy to be here and get talking about feet. Yeah, that's what you promised, and so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and we really want to get into the depths of it too. So don't hold back. We want to hear everything that you experienced when you dove into the world of feet. So tell us about it. How did you get into it?
Well, I think the first kind of I started these confession sessions on Instagram and just got people to tell me stories about, any confession at the beginning, and then it slowly started to go down the route of like when you've shit your pants, and then and then it got into like horrible date stories, and then and then it eventually got to hymens. I think it was because of I forget what it was, like somebody had lost a tampon, like got caught in their hymen, right? It's crazy, right? And then it began like that. Just started this whole other thing of women writing to me going, wait, how did that happen with the tampon and the hymen? And then what are hymens? My hymen broke this way. And then I just started, going down this cordon of thought. And then hymens kind of led naturally, not through it, but I was like, well, feet. I've always wanted to know about foot fetishes. They're fascinating. People who have them, people who are really into feet, like, and there are a lot of them. Like ever since I've got a following on Instagram, DMs are always like, show us your feet. What are they like? And then I saw that there's a wiki feet site of which I have like, all these pictures of my feet. Anytime I've ever, like my feet has been seen on Instagram, someone screenshotted it and put it on wiki feet. I was like, well, let's explore this world. And so I did.
God, is that not an invasion of your privacy?
I guess when you're just when you're an actor and you put yourself out into the world the way that I have, I really put myself out to the world. I don't try and hide away from attention in any particular way. I mean, when you do that, like I walk out in a G-string in Instagram videos. So it's like, any type of attention I get is like, okay, fair game, And so I didn't feel like it was an invasion of privacy. What I really wanted to know was like, because I've heard so many people in the past talk about how they hate feet. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because if somebody like is aroused by what a bunch of people hate or are disgusted by, then like, let's look into that.
So when you started to dig below the surface, what are the kind of things did you find out? Like, did you feel like people were, like, was it what you expected, or was it like creepier?
No, it wasn't what I expected, because I didn't think that if I'm honest, I didn't think that I would be, I guess I got a little bit aroused by feet. I guess I did. But you see, actually, I the reason I hesitate around that is because when somebody sends you a picture of a body part, right?
Yeah.
And just to go, hey, I just wanted to tell you, some people say I've got beautiful feet, and they sent it. It was intimate. And I was like, well, this is kind of sexy. Right. Like, even though I was like, okay, that's a beautiful foot. Am I aroused by the foot or the fact that this person's sharing a body part with me? Yeah. And I'm a married man. So I was like, well, this is interesting. Am I into feet? Am I a foot person? And I got accused by everyone, like, you're only doing this to get pictures of feet from people. I was like, actually, no, they just sent them to me. And then we got a bunch of people, you know, who have bunions, you know, interesting feet, you know, big gaps between first and second toes, a webbed feet. A whole bunch of people sent me their webbed feet, which I just thought was amazing. And I posted those with their permission because I was like, well, you're amazing. I love that you've shared this with me. And I'm like, do your partners appreciate your webbed feet? And they're like, yeah, they some of them do, some didn't, some paid special attention to them. Yeah. I said during sex, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it was just a little thing that they made fun of. I thought the webbed feet thing was amazing. I actually became friends. I added one of them on. She was so lovely and great. And she had webbed feet and she sent me pictures and was so open. And I asked her if I could post. She said yes. And and then we've become friends. We've become friends on Instagram now. So
what a beautiful blossoming friendship. You know, I love it. I think the interesting thing is that, like, as you know, we specialize in feet, and particularly bare feet. So the whole concept of Vivobarefoot is really to feel the ground, to be as close as possible and natural as possible to the ground. And I mean, the reason I couldn't stop laughing when I was watching your videos is because we get so much of that attention. All of our Instagram lives and our discussions and social media, everything is always eaten up, I guess, by the kind of feet fetish community. And I'm fascinated by the science behind it because, like, we know, we've done a lot of research to know that, you know, I'm going to butcher this because I don't know how many nerves exactly it is, but there's just a crazy amount of nerves in your feet. It's just the most sensitive part of your body. And then when you get into normal shoes and you pad them up and you've got padding underneath and you've got narrow shoes and you box them in your whole life, you're a kid and your parents put you in these closed shoes and then you grow up and then your foot's numb, right? You make your foot numb, but actually it's this glorious kind of nerve, wonderful kind of sensory organ. And when you go barefoot or you've already been barefoot, then you experience that and you feel nature and you feel the temperature and you feel the ground and all that kind of stuff. So I'm fascinated because I've never heard someone talk about the kind of sensual side of that, which is what you're talking about now, right?
Well, nerve endings, it almost is like, well, if there's so many nerve endings in a foot, they're almost genitals, really. Because, no, seriously, on, you know, the penis and the clitoris have like many, many nerve endings. And so if a foot is the same, then they correlate. And it's an interesting looking thing as a foot. Like, it's a strange looking, as are genitals. Like, you can't tell me that, like, if you were going to make it up, like, that's what you'd draw. Like, you know, it's madness. And so it does make sense. However, so somebody told me the kind of pathology behind the foot fetish. And some people said that when you're it's in men mostly, when you're a young baby, toddler, whatever, you see your mother naked and you see their feet, and I'm going to butcher this. So, but then you, like, once you see their feet and you look up and you see that they don't have what you have, right? They don't have a penis.
Oh.
There's some, see what I'm talking about? I can't even explain it.
You've got me, I'm engaged.
There's something like naughty about it. There's something like, you correlate the foot where you're looking down to because you crawl, and then you look up and there's genitals, vagina, and not what you have. So it's like, oh, wow, this is weird. Okay. This is weird. Like, and then you're to the feet again in shame or something. Oh. I butchered it, but there's something around that I was that people were sending me. And it was mostly not people who had the fetishes themselves, but people who'd studied fetishism.
Okay, right. So like the lady who's married or is sexually attracted to the Eiffel Tower type thing, you know, it's
fascinating.
Honestly, I could read about it all day. But I think my questions are, right, okay, so once you unlocked this subject of feet and you started to get these stories in, like, which one was the most, like, if you had to pick one, apart from the web feet, what would be the most fascinating for you that you never ever thought would kind of, you know, to do with feet?
Yeah, I had a guy who loved, I think they're called microphiles. So they love, they take like he sent me a bunch of pictures of things that arouse him. It's so amazing. He DM'd them to me. but it's like it'll be you know a huge wide shot of Los Angeles, the city, downtown LA, and then a massive Chris Hemsworth, right, like a giant over the city, and then he loves the idea of being that small and somebody being so big, and then what he'll do is he'll get a picture of somebody, you know, with their feet down the bottom, like their feet like up slightly raised off the floor, and edit a little him underneath. So he likes to be almost like he's going to be stepped on.
Oh my!
He likes that, and so to be under the feet and to be like that small, it's called a microfile. I think it's called a microfile. So when it came to, I know that we'll get to this, but I'm jumping ahead. I had to take a picture for a microfile.
Right. Oh my
feet.
gosh. So did you appreciate how much commitment goes into his particular interest then?
Yeah, I mean, he was very detailed and was very open to tell. That's what I loved about it, because I was posting anonymously.
Yeah.
The way that people opened up to me and gave me their truth, told me their story, what they were aroused by. I mean, that's a pretty interesting thing to be aroused by. You could be ashamed of such a thing, but he wasn't, which I really appreciated. But also, what's interesting, they're not anonymous to me.
Yeah.
Like, I know. Like, like if I happen to like, oh, that's my gardener.
I mean,
you know, like,
to your credit though, I think when you are open and honest and authentic on your own platform, and you do your own kind of funny shit, and you don't try and edit it out, and you know, I think that you open that up, right? You kind of open that dialogue and you make people feel comfortable with you, and then they come to you and they think, this guy's going to get it because he's an idiot, and I can relate to that, right?
Yes. Well, you open up like kind of he's an idiot. Like these are things like talking about this, how, you know, bad breath of, you know, I guess, yeah, it is. There's something special about an idiot clown that's like, I can fall over in front of you and I'm not embarrassed.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I am to the world, which I'm more than happy to be.
I love that. I think there needs to be way more of that. I mean, even the way we do this podcast is just like, you know what? Press record and go. Like, don't.
Yes.
Don't try.
Agreed. And just dive into it with people and go and let them take you where a conversation would normally would take you if you were to be interested. I agree. I think that it is. We don't talk enough. We don't really talk and get curious with each other enough. We stay surface level. We talk politics. It's like, let's get to soul. Let's go to like, what about how you like appreciated your ex-girlfriend's bad breath and you liked it? What the fuck was with that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about scrunch or fold. Let's talk about, did you shit today? Let's talk about, have you ever enjoyed the smell of your own bad feet when you've taken your shoes off? Let's talk about that. That's going to bring us together more than anything else is. And we all have these thoughts, and yet we don't ever talk about them. And it's like, bam, that's the sweet spot right there.
Yeah. And I think it's fascinating in the context of what's going on at the moment, because I know you guys have some kind of baby lockdown, but it's pretty serious in the UK, and it has been for like a year. And I think that regardless of how exponentially shit stuff is out there in the world, you still need to shit. Like, you still need to pick your nose. Like, all that stuff, it's still real. Yes. And actually, like, there's a really amazing bonding over being able to have a dry laugh with someone, regardless of kind of what's happening out there. I think that's why I like what you do on your Insta is like so regenerative for me, because what I do in my job is so serious. Like, I'm literally here to like stop us fucking up the planet. That's what I do day in, day out. And then I get in the bath at night and I watch your stupid videos and I'm like, I feel good again. Like,
yes. Connecting back to humanity. Let's talk feet and hymens. And then, yeah, I just watched a great little clip of this amazing woman named Ayeshat Akanbi. Yeah, she's English. And she wrote about, and she was saying how it's interesting that with COVID and with this, you know, deadly virus that's going around, you'd think that can kill anyone, that would bring us together. Yeah. And somehow it's done nothing but divide. And we just, and it's like, shouldn't that bring us together? Like a virus it's like, shouldn't we all relate to like you know, when you vomit and shit at the same time, when you get that sick?
Yeah.
We should be relating like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. My husband and I did that just a few weeks before our wedding, actually. So I can really, really relate to that one. But I think
what about out of both ends thing?
Yeah, we got married in Crete, and we went out to Crete 3 weeks before our wedding to kind of make sure everything was sorted. And for 3 days straight. So it was.
Bet you look great after the.
Honestly, I lost it. Yeah, the wedding dress fit perfectly. No, I totally hear you, and I think it's one of the sick fascinations like a lot of us have with reading stuff about like the Holocaust, for example, because regardless of the kind of sheer atrocity of it, when you read those books, those experiences of people who were stuck in that environment, they did come together and they did bond together. And obviously there's lots of things like that in history where that's happened, but you're absolutely right. And even when it comes to environmental stuff, like we talk a lot on this podcast about, climate change and kind of what's going on in terms of health and just sheer obesity levels and all that kind of stuff. It gets quite serious sometimes because we get some really smart people on here. But at the end of the day, like Russell Brand, who's very famous over here, he talks about how the left fights amongst itself, and then the right has its shit together. Like the whole pro-Trump army has its fucking shit together, but everyone else who like is educated is too busy fighting amongst each other.
Yeah, actually, I've kind of come to see that. There is such a, like, obviously the left, there's a fragility to the left, and they'll bite each other's head off. It's like vegans hating vegetarians. That's what the left is like. It's like, oh, we differ on this one thing, therefore you're a bad person. I don't want to talk to you, don't want anything to do with you. And that's what the left is always like. However, like I have seen in recent times, because I do follow a Republican Senator, Dan Crenshaw, and he came out and said that what Donald Trump did is wrong, right? And the comments, like I was like, I've got to look at the comments. And the comments were just like, I can't believe that you're turning against him, turning against Trump. You're a piece of shit. I'm unfollowing you. And I was like, see, that the right is no better. The right is no better. They'll immediately turn on their own, just like the left. You just can't say that. I mean, I've always thought that, like, I've thought in recent times, like, gosh, the left is so fragile. Man, the right is just as fragile. They're just as likely to whine and whinge and cancel people. Right. They're more than happy to do that too.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that, honestly, because sometimes it feels exhausting. I'm an environmentalist, but I eat meat. I particularly eat meat that's been done in a regenerative manner. So like venison.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Kangaroo in Australia, like, makes so much sense, right?
Yep.
But because I speak out about topics on environmentalism, my inbox is full with vegans who are like, how dare you sell leather, da 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 da. It's like, and you can't argue. It's like, you know what? Just don't follow me. Like, just go somewhere else.
Yes. I had somebody slid up into my DMs today, and in her bio was vegan, let the animals speak. And I was like, block. I was just like, I don't know what you're sending me. I don't want you to ever have anything to, like, you just scream angry to me.
Yeah.
It's just like, and also, like, that's what you have in your bio. Like, it was actually in the name. It was actually in the name, not even the bio. It's like, wow, so that's your identity, truly, is let the animals speak. Animals can't speak. And vegan, like, what, which is an identity based on what you don't eat. Please, like, that's not identity. That's not what it, like, that's not humanity.
You're so approachable though. Like, I think it's amazing that you actually engage, like, you really do engage with your community, and you have such like a loyal following as well. And like, I think it's really amazing that, like, you acted on the latest, well, not the latest, but all of Sabrina. And like, you post these videos of what life was like behind the scenes. It's just like, it just is such a great example of how amazing life can be when you just have fun, like, just take the piss a bit, have a bit of fun, and something that is just an innocent, like, it's a really serious show actually in many ways, but then you guys are all just having the greatest time. And I think that, like, I mean, what was that experience like for you? I realize we're going down lots of rabbit holes right now, so I'm just gonna
let's do it.
Note that.
Let's do it. More than happy to. I loved shooting Sabrina more than anything. I loved the community. Obviously, was so good. Like, we all loved each other, really and truly. Like, I don't know any other TV show that loves, like, all the cast love each other the way that we all love each other. And I mean, for me, it was my big break. It was my break after 11 years or 10 years living in Los Angeles and not doing anything. And so I was just so grateful for it and grateful to be there, which is a great way to enjoy yourself, is when you're grateful.
Yeah.
It's like you're grateful to work. And so you're like, wait, so like, I'm happy to be here. So my attitude's going to be good. I'm going to treat everybody well because I'm happy to be here. And that also happens to be the best way in which to act, is if you're having fun and looking for ways to have fun and enjoying your time. If you're like, I got to run. Can we wrap this up? Could we, like, oh, I got to get out of, I have a, dinner with my husband at 6. I need to leave. Like, it's like, you're going to hate it. You're going to hate set life. Like, get in there, sit down, grab a coffee, and like, live it up. Like, you're playing pretend. You're the devil. That's like the most fun ever.
That is super cool. Did you clash with that lifestyle in LA then? Because I imagine that would have been pretty overwhelming, that kind of like pretentious lifestyle. Or did you enjoy it?
I love LA, and I miss it being in Sydney now. And like, yes, LA has a pretentious side, of which when I was like up and coming as an actor and I hadn't made it yet, I would resent all the people going to Soho House and the fancy places, fancy restaurants and stuff. And I still kind of do. Even when I started doing it myself, like when I'd go to a nice restaurant, I was still like, nah, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. But it's like, I don't know. Look, yeah, I've heard so many people talk about like cities that they don't like when they live there. And it's like, oh, so you were poor.
Right.
You had no money there. Any city is such a bitch when you have no money. Oh, trust me, I had no money for years. I remember doing New York when I was 19 with no money, and I left that place going, New York sucks. I went back there, a couple of like beginning of last year, and I was working there, and I wasn't like rich or anything. I just had some money. Oh, what a great fucking city that is. Oh my God.
Pre-COVID.
Like, it was like, yeah, pre-COVID, obviously. But it's like, yeah, when somebody doesn't like a city, it's like, yeah, you were poor when you were there.
Yeah.
It sucks. Any city sucks when you're poor.
I do think the exception to the case might be London, because A, you can get into a shit ton of museums and stuff for free. But B, it's really easy to get pissed for free in the UK. It's got nothing to do with being a young woman. I just think like the pubs are so accessible, and like, there's always a beer lying on the counter waiting for you to, opportunistic. It's just really easy to get drunk. I mean, every corner shop has booze, right? Like Australia, you got to go to like a legitimate bottle-o drive-through. No one's going to know what that is on this podcast, but we know what it is, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
You can't, in the UK, it's just like right there all the time, So it's a lot easier.
Yeah, totally. And I think instead of saying like, oh, like, you didn't enjoy it because you were poor, I just think like when life's not going well for you, when it's not happening the way that you want it to, where you are, you can go make it about LA if you want to. Like, LA sucks. It's like, yeah, your life just wasn't cranking then, wasn't going good.
Yeah.
And don't make it about LA.
Yeah.
Because I loved LA even when my life wasn't going good. I kind of woke up to like the fact that it has nothing to do with this place.
Yeah.
If my life wasn't going well in Sydney, I still wouldn't be. I'd probably be like, oh, fuck Sydney. Like, it's like, nah.
Yeah. No, but it's amazing what you can welcome to your life when you're in that mindset, though, right? I think I'm reading a book at the moment called The Well-Gardened Mind, and it's just all about you being shut off the opportunity, to the beautiful flowers and the grass and everything around you, or being open to it and experiencing that, taking it in, and just it just opens doors for you, right? But you're quite into this kind of like alternative health, well-being thinking. You like really like to kind of embrace all that in your own life, right?
Yes, I do. I kind of got into I guess we'd call it biohacking. Like, I found Dave Asprey. I found Bulletproof Coffee, and then I found Dave Asprey. And then I just started thinking about and then I just found all these other people when I did that, like Ben Greenfield. And I followed those guys almost religiously for a few years, and kind of was just like, wow, your life can really open up if you think about the best way in which to live it. Like the best way in which to wake up in the morning, and the best things to do as soon as you wake up, like jumping into a cold shower or making yourself a coffee with grass-fed butter blended into it. And when I started doing that, I started waking up to the possibilities of like ways to spend your time, ways to keep healthy, ways to thrive instead of just existing. Once I started eating, once I started putting red meat into my diet, like good grass-fed meat, regenerative meat, just like, it was funny, you know, you put the right things into yourself and you take notice of those things and you care for yourself and nourish yourself. That's self-love.
Yeah.
So if you're self-loving, oh my God, like the world's your oyster.
Did you watch the whole Game Changers debacle between, you know, the documentary and then the fallout on, I can't remember what his podcast is now. I've lost it, but
Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan. Yeah.
I didn't, I never paid, I just didn't want to, I have a vegan friend who's on the show, actually, Sam. Oh, and he was like, you got to watch Game Changers. I'm like, nah. I'm not going to watch it. And he's like, oh, come on. I'm like, nah. There's just like, there's nothing you can really, like, you're certainly not going to change my mind with a Netflix documentary. They're emotional and they get you all riled up. And it's so easy. And I think it's such easy thinking to think, okay, well, eating meat is inhumane because you kill something, right? Yeah. It's like, yeah, well, how many things do you kill when a farmer goes out to pick those vegetables? How many things do you think it kills?
Yeah.
You know, it kills many, many things. So it's, and then you think, oh, well, if it's inhumane, then it probably makes sense that it's also not great for the environment. And then those two things are all interlinked. I think it makes sense, the thinking, but when you look into it, you can see that like, that meat doesn't equal bad for the environment. It doesn't equal bad for you. It doesn't equal inhumane even. You just got to you've got to scratch the surface a little bit, because I understand it, because it wasn't even until earlier 2020 that I really started reading. I was like, why do I actually feel inhumane when I think about meat? There was some part of my brain was like, I'm not allowing myself to think about that. I really want to start. So I went ahead and read up on it, and I scratched the surface of that little like inkling thing in your heart where you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know why I actually eat meat. Maybe it is inhumane. Something is dying.
Yeah.
And then you go away and you think, okay, so what? You'd rather a cow get old and then sick and then perish than it going to nourish your body. Yeah. And there are things like that I thought of. Anyway, you know how you guys said at the beginning, like, if we want to edit things out that might offend people, let us know. I'm thinking, around here.
Like Lara's going to kill me because I've talked about this like 3 or 4 times on the podcast, but this particular topic is like really close to me, because we make shoes with leather, right? And like we're 7th generation Clark's family legacy, right? So we use leather. It's the most wonderful material for footwear because it breathes, it's waterproof, all that kind of stuff. And then when you're done with it, you put it back in the ground, right? So but the problem with leather in footwear, for example, or fashion, whatever you want to extrapolate it out to, is that cows, for the most part, are kind of grown in intensive farming situations. So, and then obviously the way that you treat it, you can use really bad chemicals. So like, let's fix both those issues. So we currently source our leather from this wild hide cooperative run system in Thailand. Like, and they literally only have like 4 or 5 cows. They roam the rice paddies, they roam the forests, and then it kind of all, as you say, like after 3 or 4 years, they all got names, they had their life, and then they kind of pass on, they go to the local temple, they put money down and they buy another cow, which they don't kill. And it's really quite beautiful. And that's kind of how we've started to kind of take leather into our footwear. And then we now got it to a point where it's biodegradable, so you can put it back in the ground when it's done, but it still kind of does its job as a shoe. But you cannot have that conversation with this kind of community of like radical thinkers, and they just don't care that you fix the issues that they associate with that particular thing. So it's, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to get people like you who are actively informing yourself and learning and kind of teaching yourself about this stuff, kind of loving the brand and what we're doing. But that community you're trying to engage with, you're just not going to get through to it. You just can't. I think you just got to accept it.
Yeah, I think that's like so many things that we're actually dealing with right now as a society, is that everybody's minds have kind of like, they're made up and they're not questioning, and they're like, this is my team and I'm joining this team and I'm with this team to the end. Right. You know, and I actually just want to go back and correct something that I said earlier about when Sam asked me to watch Game Changers and I said no. It wasn't that I'm not open to the discussion or the thought that maybe eating meat is not good for me or not good for the environment. It's more like meat works for me.
Yeah.
It works for my body. It nourishes it. I feel best when I do it. I discovered it because I was kind of vegetarian, and when I started eating it, my life changed. My body felt much better. So did my brain. And so it's like, I'm not going to go and spend 2 hours watching an emotional Netflix documentary that doesn't give all the footnotes, that doesn't give all the information. It's just going to be a waste of my time. And it probably will like anger me if I allow the emotions to get, involved.
Yeah.
And
maybe that
it
kind
wasn't
of
that I wasn't open to the thoughts.
Yeah.
Just not open to the documentary being the thing making me have the thoughts.
No, I think that's absolutely that's totally fair. And at the end of the day, everyone's entitled to their own opinions on this, right? And I think maybe maybe that kind of sense of I'm going to stay with this team and regardless, whatever, is because we have lost that sense of community. Because one of the fascinating things in the UK that's kind of come out of this lockdown is that you're suddenly starting to have to know your neighbor, and you have to help your neighbor, and you have to kind of get involved in that local community. And I think for the most part, there's this really kind of surge over here of reconnection in those local little bubbles. There's a really wonderful book called Ikigai, which is all about Japanese culture and, just that importance of having a place in a local community and how essential that is for our own mental health. And I'm fascinated to see, I mean, even the way that you do CrossFit, right? CrossFit is one of those things where you get in that community and it become religious and you just end up being family with those people, right?
I know. I had no idea because I'd never done it before up until when lockdown finished in Australia, in Sydney, which we were so blessed. When it finished, we went back to the gyms, and we had a CrossFit gym not far from our house, and I started going. Little did I know I would love it, and it was challenging me in the best way. But also the community is really what it is. The community is like, oh, I actually really like these people, and I don't know their political affiliation. I know nothing about who they voted for. Also, that doesn't matter, because just the fact that I can exist and enjoy these people means, and not know all that shit means that it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it means that it doesn't matter. It means if your neighbor who you're helping out because you're in lockdown and it's difficult, so you've got to grip to your community and help them out. God knows who they voted for, but also who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
If you get along with them, you can have a chat with them, you can have a cup of tea with them. That's what matters.
Yeah.
Not who they voted for, not who they follow or anything like that. Not what team they're on. Man, give me the worst, the biggest Antifa beast, horrifying, destructive person. Make them my neighbor, and we'll see where we can get. I swear to God, I swear to God, we can get somewhere.
You just be sitting there in the window, taking photos of his feet. Sorry, I really just need them for this charity thing that I'm raising money for. Just creeping through the window. So to come back around, because we didn't touch on it. So you got involved in your community, which very loyal, very authentic. You asked them why feet. You got a whole bunch of stuff back. You then got requests to take photos and you auction them off, and then you raise money for the Aminita charity. Is that right?
That's right. Well, it was more like I decided I was going to sell pictures of the feet for $50. If people send me a screenshot of the receipt, that I would give whatever money came in to the Aminita Maternal Foundation. And so slowly they started rocketing in, and then it slowed down after day one. And I was like, well, I feel like I'm annoying everyone now, reminding them. And people unfollow you, I think, at that point. Not that they did, but I was worried that they would just get sick of it and fuck off, stop asking me for money. I know that it's been a hard time for money. Everyone's going through hard times for money. Not everyone's working. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to annoy anyone. But then I was like, okay, I'll also do a shout out to whoever. And then once I did that, everyone was a few people were okay, great, shout outs. But then all these feet ones just started coming, and it was there's a community of feet pages and stuff like that. They were Luke Cook's auctioning off his feet for $50. And so they started coming in, and there was some interesting requests. It was some people really want to see you in white socks, dirty white athletic socks, or anklet socks. Somebody wanted my feet to be sweaty. Some person wanted one of my feet to be sweaty, the other in a sock, and my sneakers there. They really wanted to see the sneakers, which I was going to think about, you guys, your company. I was like, I bet you there's a thing. There's a thing about it. There's got to be like people who are like into the foot shoes thing, like, or at least like you guys don't do the individual foot things, toe things, do you?
That's no.
Good. But I wonder about foot people. Are they into that?
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's kind of like leather daddy. Like you're kind of a leather daddy with a like it's kind of feet with a kink thing. Like it's like I don't just like feet. I want that foot wrapped in fucking leather and every toe individually there. And then I just want to like, I don't know, give us this little spanker with it.
I'm a really creative person and my mind is going to like, let's create like a subsection of like a porn site that's just literally like this is how we sell our shoes. We just like have this subcategory. I'm really showing my knowledge of porn sites here of like, you know, group feet, sweaty / in athletic dirty socks. Like, yeah.
I have it. A see-through Vivo shoe so that you can see the feet.
Yeah.
And people are like, yes, I want to show my people are into just showing their feet, and there are people who want to look at feet. So like it could be both. Like you're getting both. You're like, you can see it. You like that? Talk to your CEO. He sounds like a good man. He sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah. He I'm not going to share it on the podcast. It's too mean.
Yeah, don't. I nearly just did. I hear he's a good guy though. He sounds like my kind of guy.
I think he's quite well known for being quite an avid follower of the Wu-Tang Clan. So that gives you a bit of context to, you know, what he's like. Right. Yeah. No, I think just on that topic, my mind's going so many places now. We just launched this thing called Vivo, which is like a secondhand refurbished shoe website, right? So when you're done with your Vivos, you bring them back, and then we've got these guys, and they're awesome, and they refurbish them, they clean them up, and chuck them on the website. That has been like ridiculously successful, and now it's all making sense. You've got this whole community of people that actually want worn shoes, right? They just like, they open the box and they just get into it. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh my gosh. Yes, one guy, he gave $300, and he requested pictures of the feet, and he wanted me to describe what they smelled like. And I was like, well, when they're when they're bad, like when they smell, because they just don't smell if they just get out of the shower, they don't smell like anything. But when I take off my, you know, having exercise, I'd say like off yogurt.
Off yogurt. Any flavor, like vanilla yogurt.
Off yogurt, very tart.
Yeah.
Like, you know, very tart, kind of like you smell it like it's a soury tartness. So I'd say like yogurt that you've left in there for a month. You don't want to eat that yogurt. That's what I told him anyway.
I think
I shouldn't be giving this away for free on a podcast.
Yeah.
People pay for this kind of knowledge.
I mean, to be fair, look, we did make a donation to your charity. So I'm paying for the gift of you telling me about the off yogurt that is coming.
True, and you know what? Like you guys paid really good money. I would show you my soles. You know what?
Yeah,
I'm going to pull my toes apart for you.
That's it.
I'm pulling my toes apart for you. You see that? I'm going to pull them apart for you. Thank you so much.
Should we just do
the rest of the
podcast with our feet? Should we just do the rest of the podcast with our feet?
Hey, look at those ones. It's fascinating when you start noticing them, though. Like your world starts to open up a little bit when you start to notice them. And people have there's a whole level of insecurity going on with certain people. They think that their feet aren't nice. Right. And it's like, you look at their feet, you're like, your feet are perfectly fine. What are you talking about? There's this insecurity to it. I think once you start noticing those little things, like the world starts to open up. It'd be like learning about different types of grass and being a pro on it. Fuck, there's so much grass that you can possibly know about. The world just opens up to you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, when I started working at Vivo last year, I think I started here, I had no idea that there was this much to know about feet. Absolutely no idea. And I'm actually like, is probably in my performance review every year, I'm kind of marked up at like, you don't know enough about feet yet, Emma. Like you leave this podcast and you just don't, you go and like go to the university, like read this, there's like pages and pages of this stuff on feet, right? And like, I mean, and I can kind of get it. Like when I first started working here, I was still wearing heels. I was like, you know, my ass looks better when it's lifted, right? So I was still wearing heels, and like, that is just blasphemy at a barefoot company. But then like, over the space of wearing barefoot shoes, and even like our CEO says the best shoe is no shoe. And like he owns a shoe brand, but tells us not to wear shoes. So, you know, it's a bit weird. But now my shoe, I don't know if you can see this, but like my feet, see how spread out they are? That's like natural.
Yep. Oh, that's happened.
So it's meant to be like super wide in the middle. And then your toes are meant to be spread out. And your toes are meant to kind of work as like you're meant to have like cushions and feeling and everything, and like each of the toes. And we've got these foot scanners that you stand on, and that shows you exactly where the pressure goes on all of the things. And then your posture kind of does its whole thing in connection with that. And it's just crazy how much information there is to know about them.
Yeah, I do think that is interesting. I love not wearing shoes, not wearing shirts. I dislike clothing and just in general, but I really dislike shoes. I love no shoes. I can walk on the hottest asphalt you can provide. I can walk on it. I just love toughening them up. It's a point of pride for me. But I do want to ask a question about the high heels, because you mentioned it makes your butt look lifts your butt. Is that true? I thought, well, for me, it always like toned the calves. Like it looks like, oh, look at those calves, because your calves are naturally flexed when your feet go up like that.
Yeah.
Is it about the butt?
You know what? It kind of is for me, just because like I spend most of my life like Quasimodo. So I think maybe it's just like when you're in the heel, it just kind of like, it fixes you kind of, I don't know, like I don't think I'm doing my podcast. You tell me, right?
I love how this is slowly showing each other like body, but like this is a great podcast.
I think we might need to actually, except my webcam. So this is what happens on those sessions, right? So we might need to put a rating on this podcast, actually. I feel like
there you go, you've refocused.
That's good. I mean, look, let's wrap up because I've taken enough of your time, but tell me what the charity is about, so that and how people can go and request more delightful spreading toes from you and get involved.
Oh wow. Well, I'm done. However, if you DM'd me a picture of a receipt to the Aminita Maternal Foundation, I probably would send you pictures of my feet. I'm more than happy to do it. Over $50 is the deal. Aminita Maternal Foundation, I kind of came across them because Cara, my wife, used to work with Aminita, who the foundation is named after. And it turns out that in Sierra Leone, I think it's 1 out of every 17 women who give birth die during childbirth. It's like one of the worst in the world. There, I forget what you call that, maternity, dying in childbirth. Anyway, and then like 1 out of every 10 children don't see their 5th birthday. So it's like it's a very dangerous place to give birth, and the more money that they get, I had 10,000 in my mind because it pays the wages for 10 midwives for a year. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to get to 10,000. That would be incredible. But in actual fact, what they ended up telling me when I raised the 10,000 was, you're actually you're helping 100 mums give birth to 100 babies. That's how many babies we can help deliver with that money. Yeah. And so I was so overjoyed with that. Because like, what better gift, could you get? Like, and I was just mucking around, like, and I was just like showing people my feet and just having fun. And like, I didn't do it. I just helped it,
Luke, I'd much rather donate that money to you for that hilarious campaign than to my brother for doing Dry January. Let me put it that way, right? Like, look.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe I gave up beers. Yeah. Actually, no. What does Dry January go towards though? That's probably great stuff. What does it go towards? Do you know?
No idea. I honestly have.
Or does it just go to them? Like, can you believe I didn't drink for the whole month?
Exactly. I'm like a really funny kind of humanitarian environmentalist, because like if I get an email that says like I'm running a marathon to raise money for X, I'm like, oh no, like I switch off from it like straight away. It's really bad, but I just like, well, I would love to have the time to go and run Ben Nevis. Like, good for you. Like, I'm terrible at those kind of things. So yes. I think it's amazing what you did. I think it's fantastic. It's the laugh we all need right now. And like, thank you very much for just being you. And it's just been such a pleasure to have a laugh with you. So cheers. Thank you.
What a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on and letting me gas bag with you. It's been great to have a chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Sustain This with Vivobarefoot. A big thanks to Luke and his feet for joining us to have a good laugh all the way from the other side of the planet. If you liked what you heard today, please give us a review so we can keep it all going, and make sure you follow us on social media at Vivobarefoot. Also, if there's anything you want to share or ask us, you can always get in touch with us at sustainthis@vivobarefoot.com.